Hello there, my name is Jeff Shah and welcome to JNWN. In JNWN, we share news from all around the world. What kind of news? Business, financial, and economic news. This episode, we will be discussing a carbon tax and the economic and environmental impacts of a carbon tax. Firstly, what is a carbon tax? A carbon tax is money charged to corporations, people, or anyone who burns and/or uses carbon-based fuels, including coal, oil, and gas. When carbon-based fuels are used, they emit greenhouse gases, which are usually measured in tons. The charge would be for every ton of greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere. The charge would be payable to the government as a tax in hopes that these corporations will instead use more renewable energy to power their businesses. Carbon taxes have been endorsed by the International Monetary Fund, the Democratic Party's presumptive nominee for the U.S. presidential race, Joe Biden, and the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC. The IPCC, which is a UN body, also shared the 2007 Nobel Peace Prize with climate activist and TED speaker Al Gore, who also supports a carbon tax. Many countries have carbon taxes, including Singapore, which has a carbon tax set at a rate of $5 per ton of greenhouse gas emissions on taxable facilities or industrial facilities that emit greenhouse gases greater than or equal to 25,000 tons of CO2. The German government has agreed on a carbon tax of 25 euros per ton of CO2, which will come into effect in January 2021. Canada, which is a big player in oil production, also has a nationwide tax on oil, coal, and gas that starts at $15 per ton and will rise to $38 per ton by 2022. Finally, Sweden has a carbon tax equivalent to 120 USD, the highest in the world. A carbon tax will be expensive and will have a huge economic impact on the world. A report from the IPCC estimated that the international average price of a carbon tax, in order to avoid the climate change catastrophe, must be at least $135 per ton by 2030. It may be even great as $5,500 per ton. The economic impact of a well-meaning carbon tax in order to avoid the climate change catastrophe is huge. Businesses such as energy providers, large industrial organizations, and transportation services will have to switch energy resources in order to ensure that there isn't a severe decrease in profit. What about the environmental impact of a carbon tax? The Columbia University Center on Global Energy Policies, CGEP's Carbon Tax Research Initiative published a paper on this, and it was interesting. The paper found that carbon tax can create reductions in the United States and worldwide greenhouse gas emissions. If an economy-wide carbon tax was set in 2020, which also rose at a rate of 2% per year, it would achieve emissions reductions of 39 to 47% below 2005 levels by 2030. Amazing, right? There are a few issues with this, however. Firstly, it would have to be a carbon tax on the entire economy, meaning that every single industry and every single person would be applicable to it. Not even Sweden, the best country when it comes to carbon taxes, has applied it to their entire economy. Many countries in the world have carbon taxes on certain industries or there are requirements set. For example, Singapore only taxes those who emit more than 25,000 tons, which is hundreds and even thousands more than CO2 than the average person emits. The second issue is that beyond 2030, our carbon tax as recommended in the study might not be sufficient for achieving CO2 emission targets. As the study says, quote unquote, in the long term, the range of tax rates considered in this analysis will likely be insufficient to reduce U.S. greenhouse gases emissions 80% below 2005 levels by 2050. While a carbon tax might seem like a good short-term solution, it most definitely is not a long-term one. So, the impact of a carbon tax, especially on high carbon producing industries such as energy, agriculture, and transportational industries, would be severe. unless there is a large switch to renewable energies such as wind, solar, and hydro, geothermal, and biomass energy. The environmental impact would be large. However, we can't just rely on a carbon tax as explained in this episode. We must look to other solutions as well in order to solve the climate crisis. If you are further interested in exploring different solutions to the climate crisis, I recommend playing around with online tools like En-ROADS. Climate Interactive, along with MIT Sloan Sustainability Initiative and Ventus Systems Incorporated, spent 9 years creating En-ROADS, which lets everyone test different solutions to the climate change crisis. It's really interesting and shows the feasibility and results of many solutions. The link will be put in the description. Thank you for watching. Please press the subscribe button, the like button, and please turn on the notifications bell. That's the economic and environmental impact of a carbon tax. I'm JNWN, and this is JNWN.